Hey everybody, Syntax77 here, and today I want to take a moment, or perhaps a few moments, to share with you a new piece of gear I've been using for about a month now and really enjoying. It's a flashlight, as you may be able to tell from looking at it on the table here. It's by a company called ThruNite, and the particular model is the Archer 2A V2. V2 being the second variation. They've made some improvements to the user interface system. We'll get into all that in a little bit, as well as the type of LED in there. So we'll be taking a look at this, give you my thoughts on it, some of the general overviews, stats, specs, weights, all that fun stuff, you know, I like to just run my mouth about. I was actually contacted by a rep from ThruNite. I got an email from them and I checked it out. They said, we think that we have some lights that you might be interested in checking out, so I said, all right, I've seen these emails before. I do get these occasionally, but more often than not, I don't follow up. But when I went to their website, I could tell that their products are actually something that I would legitimately buy in real life, at least from looking things over. And I thought it was something that may be worth sharing with my viewers. You may notice it is a bit bigger than a lot of the flashlights that I typically use for backpacking. I'm a little uptight about the weight nowadays. So a lot of times I have kind of an everyday carry sort of light that's two AAAs or a single AA maybe set up. This one is a 2 AA setup, but it also packs a heck of a lot more punch. We'll get into the lumens later. And a little bit easier ergonomics. I thought this would be good to try out a model like this for winter season, which is, well, I was going to say rapidly approaching, but it's actually here right now, as well as hunting season, which I've been doing for a couple months now between both Delaware and Pennsylvania, where weight is a little less of a concern and good ergonomics, durability, and just high power take a little bit more of a front seat to just complete lightweight obsession. You can see in this model here that is all that black knurled kind of setup that you see on a lot of the tactical lights. It's got a good grip to it, some nice checkering on there, and a lot of the surfaces in the back as well, also on the button. Okay, now like I said, a bit bigger than usual for me. Typically my lights are around the 2 ounce with batteries weight range. This one gonna clock in with 2 AA batteries, so those are weighing about 1.5 ounces, 4.5 ounces, okay, which actually it is lighter than you may think from seeing the size of it. So 4.5 ounces with the batteries in there. If we take the batteries out, which is simply take the tail cap off, so you're getting a little live demo of that, aren't you? We'll take these out. These are just some alkaline batteries. Put that on with the tail. 2 3/4 ounce for the actual light, and then add in your 1.5 ounces of batteries. Put those back in there, and that brings you up to a little bit over 4 ounces. Now typically I do carry in my back pocket when I'm carrying those smaller pen lights. So I went ahead and said, well, I'm still going to treat this like EDC and just see how it goes. And I actually did carry it in my back pocket with this nice pocket clip around, and wasn't that bothersome. Of course, unlike a thinner pen light where I forget it's there, this you always know it's there, but it's, you know, 4 ounces isn't terrible, and it was readily available in that back pocket. So on those days when I was hunting, I just carried this all day as my EDC, and then also threw it in the pack or on my jacket when I went in the woods. You'll also notice on here that forward facing clip. So the default configuration that they give it to you in is with that forward facing clip. It's got a nice deep recess on it, so if you put it in your pocket this way, you have a little bit of the lens sticking up, but it's for the most part all the way down in your pocket. For me personally, I like actually to have the button face up, so you just reverse it and pop it down here. Okay, that keeps it, for me personally, I like it kind of weak hand side back pocket, so that if this is straight up and down in the pocket, when I go in to grab it out of my pocket, my thumb's already on the button and I pull it up and I pop it right on. Okay, that's just me personally. So it is nice that it flips the clip there so that you can go with whatever preference you want. I will point out one thing that I wish was a little different. So I will point out those things as well. You see on the front here, it really locks in on this little channel here, so it's not sliding around anywhere. When you flip it to the back the way I like to carry it, it does have some play, but it's still just as hard to get off. It just does have some slide, but I thought that might have, you know, bothered me, but it doesn't. I found that it really doesn't move around. I slide down into my pocket, pull it out of my pocket, it's fine. I mean, if I was going to make a suggestion, I'd say put a little channel in the back here for those of us who like to carry that way, but it really didn't end up being a particularly big deal. All right, light modes on this. It's got 4 light modes plus strobe, so actually 5 light modes, and 4 of those are different levels. It's got all the way from 0.055 lumens, that's right, 0.055, that's sub-lumen, and that runs for something crazy. We look at the manual, 600 hours or something, all the way up to a lightning attack, 450 lumen on high. And in between there, it's got low and medium at 17 and 75 lumens respectively. So you get a really nice wide range. I like the fact that even for a light like this, it goes all the way up to 450 lumens, which is, at least for me, crazy amount of power compared to what I'm used to carrying. I like that they also throw in that what they call a Firefly mode that runs at that 0.055. It just barely gives out any light. You can't even tell it's on if I were to turn it on right now. Matter of fact, I will for you. That's on medium, I believe. High. There, that's Firefly. Look. Can you even tell? Probably not, but it is on, I promise. When you're in a tent or at your stand hunting and you just want to see something real quick, that is a lot of light, a lot more than you'd think, and it won't ruin your night vision, and it won't give away your movement either. Alright, as you can probably tell by now, I'm just using this side actuator button to switch modes. So now we're going to go to low, 17 lumens. Okay, now we're talking. I usually keep it in this mode all the time. 17 is plenty. You can see, I can even see it in this highly lit studio I'm in right now. Medium. Now we're pushing 75. That's plenty of light for just about any application. And now, if you want to make the woods look like it's daytime, you know, like when they shoot that flare up in the World War I movies, and you know the entire trenches go from nighttime to day, pop it up like that, and it's going to be really blazing at 450. I at first thought, what in the world is the use for that? I actually came into a situation where it did work for me though. When I was hunting, I was up there in the woods one night, one morning, although it felt like night, it was before the sun came up. I went a little too far, was following trail tacks, went a little too far, past my stand. Oh man, where am I? I had this on low, like flashlights I would normally have them on when I go into the woods. Anyway, I switched it over to the 450. I just did a quick burst, and I swear, that stand, it has a very good flood pattern to it, and lit the whole woods up like crazy. I just did a quick burst, so for any animals, it was almost like some sustained lightning, and found that stand really quick. So, hey, what do you know? I found a reason to use 450 lumens. Speaking of real quick burst, this button here on the tail cap is momentary on. I like that. Me personally, especially with the way I carry these with the button right there, pull it out of my pocket, do a momentary on, check something, back in the pocket. And then, of course, if you click all the way through, it stays on. Let's get it out of this blinding mode. My camera's going to freak out. All right, a little better. So, yeah, the momentary on is nice. Also, it's got that checkering on the tail button there. Real nice checkering for no slip. But you'll also notice a lot of lights that do that, it protrudes past the end of the tail, and then you can't tail stand it, which is nice for lighting up a room or something, or a cabin that doesn't quite have light in it yet, a hunting cabin. So there you go. You can see it's standing, I should say, straight up. It's not the most stable thing in the world. I could probably hit it a couple times, and it's fine. It's going to stay there, but you'll notice that something like fabric, it's not quite so flat that it's going to stand up on that. But a piece of wood or something like that, it will stand up and light a room up for you. Okay, so I do like that. I've got other lights where I can't stand them straight up, and it might sound simple, but I actually really do appreciate that. Okay, if you can focus in here, we'll take a look at what they call the orange peel reflective coating in there. It's pretty nice. This light is off right now, but you can see how well it's reflecting. Of course, I have a lot of lights in the studio, but on some of those nights where I was going to sleep, albeit very early, at like 9 o'clock when I was getting up at 3:50 in the morning to go hunting in Delaware, I'd have this sitting and I'd be like, oh man, I left it on Firefly mode. And I had to check a couple times. It wasn't on. It's just that this is catches so much light that it actually looks like it's on, even in just catching light from the room sometimes. So it definitely would explain why it throws such a wide beam. Tested it up at the cabin. Footage here you see is around 65-70 yards, testing in various modes. It's got more of a really big flood capability. It still has a good depth of throw, I'd say. It's just relative to all that power coming out. The first thing you notice is that wide angle, and it's great. In the package, you are going to get some spare O-rings, so that's worth pointing out. For those of you who want to know, you do get 2 spare O-rings included with the flashlight, as well as your handy-dandy instruction manual. Let's take a look at the booklet for those of you who really want to get into things. Those modes I already went over, but let's talk about runtime. Now, runtime I kind of view almost like sleeping bag ratings, you know, on what temperature a sleeping bag can go to. It really depends a lot, that number, on your personal usage, your environment, your perception, all kinds of different factors. But it's still good, in the case of like sleeping bags, to know that number just to have a relative basis. So same thing for running times. You know, what will you actually get in your situation, your temperatures that you're using it in, etc. I don't know, but just to give you an idea, when you're comparing to other lights, that Firefly mode, you're rocking 672 hours, okay? The low 17 lumen, you're going 96 hours. Medium, 75 lumen, you're going 11 hours. And then the Beast mode, 450 lumen, actually goes longer than I expect, 100 minutes. Some of those AAA flashlights that I carry, they will go up to like say 180 lumens, but you run it like that for 15 minutes and your battery is done. Now, doesn't seem like you'd run your, light for that long at a time, but if you break it down, that's 3 5-minute sessions and that battery's done. With this, especially now that I'm in the winter, those batteries get sapped a lot harder. You got a lot more room to play with, a little more margin for error. I'd say just about every mode except for the high 450 lumen mode, you have no worry about just using it until your heart's content if you're out on a couple-day trip. Especially running at medium, 75 lumens, 11 hours, but most of the time I'm running on low, and that's 96 hours before I kill it. You know, give or take, I'm throwing other modes in there and whatnot, but still, we're talking, I could accidentally leave the thing on overnight and I'd be fine. So that is an advantage of having the extra batteries in there. Of course, you do have the extra weight, but like I said, it carries well. Oh, let me tell you one more thing before I go. Another thing about that clip, I do like with the reversible and forward front clip. Let's take that off again. Swap that back. This is when I like to use it in this mode, and that's as a headlamp on a brimmed hat. Now look, I'm going to be honest, the thing is 4 ounces, so yeah, you're going to feel a little weight on the brim of your hat. I'm not saying that you're ideally going to throw out your headlamps and start using this, but it is a good alternative if you want to carry only one light. Or, I'm not even making this up, when I went up to the cabin for Pennsylvania, I actually forgot my headlamp at home. Oops, but no big deal. I clipped this to the front of my hat and walked right down to the stand with it. Last but not least, or maybe possibly least to a lot of you who don't even bother using the strobe modes, I will show you that. You're just going to hold down the mode button and it's going to go strobe crazy. That's on the full 450 lumens. It's very disorienting. You know, you can argue whether or not there's defensive need or effectiveness for that, but if that is something you're into, that is one heck of a strobe light going on there. Press it once, goes back into the light mode you had it on. Speaking of potential self-defense, again, you can debate whether you would carry a flashlight for self-defense, but you never know the situation you're going to be in. Maybe it's a backup. They do point out that this is a hard anodized stainless steel front bezel. So yes, it could be a last resort striking element for those of my friends and viewers in law enforcement or military. If you're carrying this as a backup light, at least you know, well, more realistically, if you drop it, it'll take a hit, right, on the lens, or worst case scenario, you could, you know, fend for whatever you have to with this. It should also be pointed out that whatever mode you last have it on, that's where it stays. Most of the lights where there's only a button on the end, every time you turn it on, it starts in, let's say, low or maybe high. It varies by manufacturer, but you got to cycle through all the modes each time. For this, you set it to your favorite mode. Every time you turn it on, it's back in that mode, with the exception of strobe. That's the only one you can't memorize, but whatever you set it to, that's where it will stay at. I do like that. Let's talk about dexterity real quick. Why is there a mitten on the table, you might be asking? Well, this is my dexterity test. You're in the woods, it's cold, you have a pen light, like I might carry. I'm trying to pick it up. Wow, this is actually becoming more obvious than I thought. Trying to pick that up, and it looks like I'm actually destroying my table as I do. Okay, alright, got it. Alright, see that? Compared to a larger light, and there I go. So yes, even skeptics like me can start to learn that there are reasons to have a slightly less lightweight piece of gear for different applications. I'm digging it. I think that pretty much covers it. The ThruNite Archer 2A V2 LED flashlight system. If you're looking for something with a bit more or a lot more punch when it comes to lumens, plenty of runtime, and you're willing to trade in really only a couple ounces to get all those extra bonuses, then I would definitely recommend checking out the ThruNite Archer 2A V2. Till next time, I'm Syntax77. Have fun out there.